when I posted a video regarding the UFAs for next summer, I was asked about RFAs. Now, RFAs this summer could be interesting because while every year they're a dud, they're a complete dud. Maybe this is the year that changes because there are some interesting names out there, and at the very least, some of these guys could get a huge raise just so they don't become RFAs. And some could get scaled back. RFAs, the whole idea of putting in an offer sheet means you're potentially giving up draft picks and potentially a lot of them. And it's not really worth the risk right now. To be honest, it isn't. For the amount of, I mean, if you're going to offer a guy like, let's say, a Frankie Corrado type, money and hope that he doesn't re-sign with the Leafs, okay. But I'm just using that name just as an example. But a team isn't going to take an offer sheet and put it in on a guy who's a depth player. The offer sheet's going to go to a guy who belongs to a team that has cap trouble. That's your number one. And it's that way and been that way the whole way along. I remember when Philly, this deal that Shea Weber has that everybody craps all over, that's Philadelphia's deal. Philadelphia signed that contract with Shea Weber because it was a terrible deal, and they knew it was a terrible deal, but they wanted him out of Nashville, and they figured by signing him to that contract that Nashville would just give up and just let him go. All right, delay is done. You can see the lovely, talented, personable Yvonne in the background there, working hard industrially. She's a real hard worker here. And I'm going through. That wasn't sarcasm. Don't look at me like that was sarcasm. That's serious. I'm darn serious. Okay, so restricted free agents. Who's going to get offer sheets is basically where the question is. And you have to target two things. You have to target players that you believe are going to be worth the money you're signing them to, and you have to target a team that's going to have trouble matching. So I'm just going by who has the most points among the RFAs for next summer. And number one is Leon Draisaitl. 33 points, 38 games, 14 of his points are goals. He's in the last year of his entry-level contract, 125 grand. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that he gets $5 million this summer. I think he'll grow into a 5-year, $5 million a year contract. It could go north of that because contracts have been crazy the last few years. And every time I think, well, this would be reasonable, I add $1 million, and that's usually around what they get. The thing is, Edmonton isn't exactly in cap trouble yet. I still think that Lucic contract's going to bite them later on. But for now, they're okay. Next up, Columbus. Oh, Alexander Wenberg. 33 points in 35 games. He's on the last year of his entry-level contract. This could be an opportunity for a team to do an offer sheet and get him. They're going to have to make it a good offer, but Columbus has major problems with the cap. I've discussed that in previous videos. Columbus has cap problems. There's no way around it. And I really think that Columbus is a team that could get an offer sheet thrown at them. Because, a guy like Wenberg, 25 assists in 35 games, he's a good player. And he, at 22 years of age, should get better. So I could see an offer sheet going to him now. Who would make the offer sheet? I'm not here to discuss that. I'm just saying this is a guy who's on a team that's vulnerable. Erik Karlsson's next up. Not Erik Karlsson of the Ottawa Senators. Erik Karlsson of the Carolina Hurricanes. Spelled the exact same way. 32 points in 37 games. He's on the last year of his entry level at 661 grand. He's going to get a big raise. He'll get it in Carolina. Carolina's got cap room. They'll keep him. Minnesota's Michael Granlund, 29 points in 36 games. He's had a very good last 20 games. His stats were terrible at the start of the year. His stats have picked up. He's on a $3 million a year contract, which expires this coming summer. He'll get a raise. I don't know how much of a raise, but he'll get a raise. Speaking of raises, Ryan Johansson will be looking for one, but he's only got 7 goals in 36 games, 27 points. He's in Nashville. Nashville can match whatever somebody gives him for an offer. I can't see him being offer sheeted. The guy below him, though, 39 games, 11 goals, 15 assists, 26 points. Bo Horvat's coming out of his entry-level contract. Bo Horvat could be vulnerable to an offer sheet. And I remember many years back, a kid named Ryan Kessler got an offer sheet from Philly. And it was because Ryan Kessler was a good two-way forward, a good young center, and they saw a lot of potential. Horvat could be better than Kessler. He has that potential. And I could see Philly doing an offer sheet. Now, does Philly have cap room? Not really, but they will. And the Canucks are vulnerable. They are definitely vulnerable to an offer sheet, which is why Benning will do everything he can to sign Horvat probably before the trade deadline. I'd be very surprised if he hasn't signed before that. And Boston, David Pastrnak. Pastrnak is tricky. He is coming out of his entry-level contract, and he's got 19 goals in 33 games, 26 points overall. He is going to get a lot of money. He's only 20 years old. He's going to get a lot of money. I honestly could see $6 million a year based on what he could become. I could see the potential being what's paid for in his contract. It's one of those things too where Boston could have a cap problem, and I could see an offer sheet going there. Now, Nashville doesn't just have Johansson up; they also have Victor Arvidsson up. He has 24 points in 36 games, 631 grand. He's coming out of his entry-level contract. He's going to get a major raise. He plays both ways. He's good at both ends of the ice. He can do anything. He can penalty kill. He can put. He's good on the power play. He's smart. He's a good checker. He's tough as nails. Oh boy. If I sound like I'm his agent, it's because that's a job I'd love to have because I truly believe in Arvidsson and I would make a passionate case for him. He's gonna get, he's getting 600 grand this year. 5 times that next year. I would think 3 million, maybe more. Depending, and again, it depends on term. If he takes a bridge contract, he'll get 2.5 million. If he gets a long-term contract, it'll be probably 4 million, just based on the potential alone. Although Arvidsson isn't an offensive dynamo, and I think he's the kind of guy that could sign a long-term contract for a big cap hit, and it could eventually be either bought out or traded because sometimes these two-way forwards tantalize with what they could become, and they never quite get there offensively, so it leaves the team disappointed and feeling like they're not getting a good return on their contract. Alex Galchenyuk, who's currently injured, 2.8 million. He will get a raise this summer. It's a matter of how much. Montreal will keep him. Nino Niederreiter, 9 goals, 23 points in 36 games, 2.6 million. I would think he'll probably get a raise of some sort. Not a huge one, I don't think, though. Jonathan Drouin, he's in the last year of his contract. His entry level's up, 22 points in 30 games. He's in for a raise. It's a matter of how much and whether or not he stays in Tampa. Tampa's going to have cap problems, and if a team swoops in and makes a big offer to Drouin, I can't see Yzerman matching it. I can't see Yzerman being able to match it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Connor Sheary. Sheary's 22 points in 31 games. Shows that he's a damn good player. Sheary will stay in Pittsburgh. I cannot imagine Sheary not staying in Pittsburgh. And I can't imagine anybody giving him an offer sheet because his 22 points has a lot to do with who his line mates are. Tyler Johnson. I have talked about his struggles before. They show up here. 21 points, 38 games. He's making $3.333 million. I think he probably stays about the same. I think his contract will stay about the same, and I think he stays in Tampa. 20 points for Tyler Toffoli. 20 points in 32 games for Toffoli. 3.25 million. That's about right. He might get a small raise, but that's about it. Ryan Dzingel, 750 grand this year, and he's got 20 points, 37 games. I love Dzingel. The guy there's a lot of heart there. I could see him getting 2.5 million in the offseason. And then there's some interesting ones in here. Kuznetsov makes $3 million right now. He's only got 3 goals in 36 games. I don't know. Do you give Kuznetsov a raise? No. Has he lived up to his potential? No. He's 24, so it's not like he's 20 or 21. Does Washington just trade him off then? Is he going to go somewhere? Do they keep him? A lot of questions with Kuznetsov. And Teravainen is in a similar situation. 19 points in 36 games for him as well. 9 of his are goals, whereas Kuznetsov only has 3. He's coming out of his entry-level contract. Teravainen's going to get a raise. It's a matter of how much. And again, because it's Carolina, I can't see him going anywhere else. Some other interesting ones. Sam Bennett's coming out of his entry-level contract. He will get a raise. It's a matter of how much. And he'll stay in Calgary. Shane Gostisbehere, coming out of his entry-level contract, he is in for a huge contract. And I could see him getting an offer sheet. So I said Philly with Horvat. I could see the Canucks turning around and giving Ghost an offer sheet. I could see the two warring over, each other's restricted free agents, and then both of them match and nobody goes anywhere. Ghost is fantastic, and he will get a lot of money next summer. Tanner Pearson, $1.4 million he's making this year. He'll probably get a raise in the offseason. He'll probably get around $2.5 million altogether next year, but he'll stay with the Kings. Damon Severson, 18 points in 38 games. He's coming out of his entry level. He is going to make some serious money. Severson is, it's not even close. In New Jersey, it's not even close. He is their best defenseman. He's kind of sort of fantastic on their blue line. I'm very impressed with him in a game I watched of New Jersey's. So, $4 million for what he does. Andre Palat makes $3.333 million. I think he gets maybe less than that in the next contract. I don't know. He's 25. His point totals are probably maxed out. Maybe he stays the same. I can't see him getting a raise. Thomas Tatar, there's no way around it. Tatar has not developed into the top line forward he was supposed to. 17 points in 37 games is fine, serviceable, but it's not what he was supposed to be. He was supposed to help. Him and Nyquist were viewed as the guys who were going to help replace Datsuk and Zetterberg, and it just hasn't happened. That's a big part of the reason why Detroit's missing the playoffs this year. $2.75 million for Tatar. He probably keeps that money. He probably stays at that same rate. Colton Parayko is going to be restricted this summer. St. Louis, could I see an offer sheet there? Maybe. His 17 assists in 38 games is going to be tempting to somebody. Again, Vancouver comes to mind. When it comes to blue liners, Vancouver comes to mind because they need an offensive blue liner. They need a guy who can make that first pass, a guy who can get those primary assists. They just don't really have that right now. I know I like Stetcher too. I like Hutton, but they need the guy who can potentially score 40, 50 points. Parayko has that potential, and he's 23. There's a little bit of wiggle room there for him to improve because he's a defenseman. And beyond that, Hyman's restricted this summer. He's not going anywhere. Toronto will keep him. Toronto will keep Connor Brown as well. Zaitsev's restricted this summer. Unless the KHL made him an incredible offer, he's staying. Richard Panik, I was asked by Spicy Pokecheck about this last night. He's actually a restricted free agent this summer, so he'll stay in Chicago. Chicago will probably double his wages. He's making $875,000 this year, I would think. 1.5 to 2 million in the offseason is good for him. Burakovsky is coming out of his entry level. Radek Faksa, one of the few Dallas Stars I really, really like. 13 points in 38 games. His game goes beyond points. He'll improve on his $863,000 he's making this year. I figure he doubles it. Jean-Gabriel Pageau, 13 points in 37 games, 4 goals. $900,000. I say he goes up to $1.5 million as well. In the disappointment category, Mikhail Grigorenko, 12 points in 35 games, and he makes $1.3 million. I don't see him staying in the NHL. I see him going to the KHL next year. Donskoy and San Jose, he goes beyond points too. His point total matches Grigorenko. The difference is Donskoy is a really good defensive forward. He's going to make some bank next summer, but not an exceedingly high amount. $1.5 million is probably good for him. So yeah, that's where I see that going. Let me just take a quick look here at another stat. Robin Lehner's a restricted free agent for goaltenders, 2.25 million cap hit. His stats are decent. I could see him staying in Buffalo and getting a raise on that 2.25 million. Anders Nilsson, 925 save percentage, 5 wins for $1 million. I think he finds a new job next year. I think he moves. And yeah, outside of that, there really isn't a whole lot there. Connor Hellebuck is restricted. He makes 667 grand this year. He'll get money. I don't think he'll get a lot more. I think he'll get about 2.5 million. Grubauer in Washington's restricted. He's got 750 grand. If he wants money, he'll have to move. The Caps will probably give him 1.2 million, I would think. If he wants more than that, he'll probably have to move. And that's about it as far as interesting restricted free agents for goaltenders go. So there you go. My fearless predictions of who may or may not get an offer sheet. I don't think there's going to be a lot of it going around, but I could see Bo Horvat getting an offer sheet, and I think Ghost could get an offer sheet. It's are they close to the cap, and is the guy worth risking losing multiple first rounders for? And I think both Horvat and Ghost are guys that you can risk that because if a contending team picks up Bo Horvat, those draft picks aren't going to be top 10. At least they shouldn't be. And if Ghost is signed by a team that doesn't have a top flight defenseman, say like Vancouver, it's worth it because you don't necessarily get a top flight defenseman out of 3 or 4 draft picks. It's virtually impossible to say, okay, well, out of those 4 picks, 1 or 2 of them will probably be as good as Ghost. There's no way to tell. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Offer sheets, do they happen this summer? Does something happen with restricted free agents? How do you fix restricted free agency? Do you get rid of the compensatory draft picks? Do you drop the amount of compensatory draft picks? How do you make it so the marketplace livens up a little bit? Because Lord knows, if you livened up this market, it would make the summer a heck of a lot more fun to watch. But thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed and you're just browsing through, go ahead and hit the like button, hit subscribe, and welcome to the channel. And I will talk to you all again tomorrow.